Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Looks over the middle, second guesses, fires, throws. Does he make the catch in the end zone? Yes! Touchdown! Oladipo to win it.
Another one!
He got
Another one! Another one!
Huge hole! He's at the 30! He's gonna go! 10, 5, touchdown! Jonathan Taylor!
Galloway finds Rob Finnessy, who fires the three, and he hit it!
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, sports fans. Welcome into another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you live from high atop the 18th fairway here at the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios in Bloomington. We're heard on great stations like 97.7 ESPN The Ref in Evansville, WBRO Marengo, and around the world on YouTube, where we've hit 1 million viewers now, thanks to you guys. So subscribe, hit the like button now, never miss a show. We're brought to you by AndyMooreHonda.com, where you will always find the best deals on new and used vehicles, and Endeavor Hospitality's WOW Network. Go to your Apple App Store or Google Play Store right now. Sign up, start earning WOW rewards today at places like BB's Market, home of the best selection of custom meats and in-house products around, and a full-size bakery. You can join us for the show live each Friday at BB's. I'm Jim Coyle. My co-host Dustin Schutte on assignment today. So we'll have to make it without him. But, of course, John, the producer, is here. How are you doing, sir?
Doing well. Doing well.
Well, good to see. It is a big-time week. It is homecoming week. Got Hoosier hysteria beginning this Friday as well. A lot of people excited. There will be a lot of people in town. It's going to be a fun week. The weather is going to be really nice until the end, and it's just going to dip off a little bit. So there's that. Don't know if I'm looking forward to that. Excuse me. But, yeah, that 55, that's for a high. Not looking forward to that.
Good news is basketball's played indoors, unlike the football game.
How about Indiana women's golf? Alexis Florio with a 64 for IU. And in Indiana set a tournament record at a 205. I'm not sure where that was. I'm seeing it on the Hoosier.com. It's an invitational. I can't read it. But congratulations. She finished third in the individual. And Indiana finished 10th overall. Pretty damn good. Congratulations. Got some golfers. See? The foul course already paying off. It makes a difference. I'm telling you. Facilities make a difference. Remember that crap course that they were practicing on before? If you don't, trust me, it was a crap course. It was like a municipal. It was the worst course in the Big Ten. Now they have one of the absolute best. It makes a difference, people. So congratulations to them. My golf game is nowhere close to that. Men's soccer was up in Michigan. Jalen Lucas has been a big topic of conversation on football field, getting the ball to him more often. And like I mentioned, Hoosier hysteria is coming up on Friday, so the docket is full. Mike DeCourcy with us today. Looking forward to that, along with Chronic Hoosier. Looking forward to talking to Mike about the reaction to his piece from last week. Did any of you read that? What are your thoughts? Did any of you read the piece that he wrote on Dane Fife? And what are your thoughts? It's just a sucky situation for both sides, but today is National Taco Day. Man.
And it's Taco Tuesday. How fitting.
Well, how else would they put Taco Day on any other day?
Well, it's on October 4th. It just so happens to fall on a Tuesday this year.
Oh, it's a dated thing.
Mm-hmm. Like it's actually National Taco Day on top of it being Taco Tuesday.
Oh, did you watch the Manning cast?
I got a confession. I have not once watched the Manning cast.
I
I don't know if that shows my age. Maybe I'm not into. I mean, here's the thing. Obviously, I like Peyton Manning.
Age? What does age have to do with it?
I feel like what I'm saying is, I feel like most
you
people
think old people
that I
watch
hear,
that?
It's not old people. It's just a different generation watches the Manning cast. I feel like I don't know anybody my age who watches the Manning cast.
Really?
And I wouldn't consider Dustin obviously my age. He's almost 10 years older than I am.
I don't know.
And I don't know. Does Dustin watch the Manning cast? He's talked about it before, though, hasn't he?
What?
Does Dustin Shooty? He watches the Manning cast, doesn't he?
Oh,
well,
yeah.
Before.
Well, yeah. But anyway,
I just find
you didn't have to.
It's really corny.
You didn't have to watch the Manning cast to see this part of it, but there was a semi streaker came onto the field in the third or fourth quarter. And he goes, oh, well, we got a streak out there. And he goes, can we run that back, Eli? Can you do that on the tablet? Run. He goes, wait, we can't run that. He goes, I understand the A team can, but we're the B team. We can't play that. But so they end up showing it again. Then it shows two of the Rams clock this dude. It was pretty good. I mean, they knocked the snot out of him. He didn't get up when they hit him, put him on the ground, and security was right there, but it was funny. Bobby Wagner. I wish you all could. I wish I had a way of. I mean, trucked him. This one Ram player started chasing him, and so he started to run away from that Ram guy, a player. I don't know who it was. That was a mistake because that's about that time. That's when Bobby Wagner took a beat on him from the other direction, and got to guess he's never been hit by an NFL football player before. He went down like a sack of potatoes, baby. If you pull up at Omaha Productions, you can probably pull that clip, John, just for the sound. And then there was, I missed Saturday Night Live this week. But apparently I did watch it for a little bit of it last night because I heard that the opening, the cold open was a mock of the Manning cast with John Hamm, who ended up joining them on the Manning cast last night. So Manning cast is good stuff. Oh man, here's a picture.
You talk about this. You want the streaker clip, right? I've got that ready if you want to.
Yeah, but it's the one. It has to be from Omaha at Omaha Productions because that's the one.
That's what I have.
Okay. Yeah.
Let it roll.
Yeah, let it roll. The sound is good enough.
We got a visitor on the field here. Can we rewind that? Eli, can you do the tablet on this streaker on the field? No? Can I do it on the big board?
Yeah, you got to break down his moves.
I don't know if he's naked right now, but I think at some point he had no clothes on. He was running a post route right across the 50, and a security guard took him out. But a nice hit, though, right? It was a nice legal hit.
He was running the post route.
Then they rewatched it. That. Yeah, I understand.
I think we can. They don't want to talk about it.
I understand the A team couldn't show it, but the B team, we should be able to show that.
I think that's what here you go. Oh, yeah.
There he is.
Wow.
Yes. Oh, yes. That's
He's got a flair or something with him, too.
Veteran, right? Get him down.
You're not showing the video, though.
Let these guys take
over. I can see the video.
Bobby Wagner.
But no one else can.
He had some smoke going on there.
Yeah, he's got.
Yeah, that was pretty good. Yeah, he did have a T-shirt. I don't even know what it was. I'm not going to even say whatever it was. What in the world? Now we're talking about burritos, chilitos.
Everybody's excited about Taco Day.
Man, I'm disappointed. I don't have a taco for breakfast. I'm going to be honest with you.
Have you ever had a waffle taco? Like with the waffle as the shell?
I'm thinking. I don't think so. I know Taco Bell has done some stuff, but now those crunchy, cheesy gorditas were like my go-to when they were out.
I could go for a nice breakfast waffle taco.
I could eat just tacos right now and be quite happy. But yeah, a breakfast taco would be good as well. I could make up some blue waffle tacos for breakfast. I would eat a blue waffle taco for breakfast or lunch or dinner. My body has no clock. That's right, but no syrup on that.
That is correct.
Memory like an elephant. Got a memory like an elephant. Tannis has got a memory. Big week. Who's coming to Hoosier Hysteria? What are you looking forward to seeing? You know, it's not going to be a full-fledged thing, but what are, and even those that aren't planning to be there, what are you wanting to, what are you hoping to see from this event? What are you expecting to see from this event? You know, it's a more get out and just kind of stretch the legs and show the people kind of a thing. Some people wish it was still at midnight. I got to be honest. I'm glad it's not. Maybe when I was younger. I'm over that. Speaking of the last night, the game, the Rams and the 49ers, I think the Rams ended up winning, was it 27-9? I forget the final score. The over and under was like 59 in that thing. Yeah, Dustin's on assignment so he can, I guess, head this direction tomorrow, right?
No, he has something else going on at the moment, but if he is going to be coming up, he's leaving tonight, so it's unrelated.
Oh, if he is going to be coming up.
Yeah.
Has he not confirmed that?
He has not confirmed.
Boy, I wish you could see this picture of Bobby Wagner clocking this dude. I mean, he gets drilled. It's beautiful. We've got to take a break. We've got a good show coming up. Mike DeCourcy is going to join us. We're going to be talking about his piece on Dane Fife last week. And that and much more. Chronic Hoosier along as well. Plenty to get to. Stick around. We've got more coming up. Brought to you by BB's Market, a part of the WOW Club. Make sure you go to your Google App Store, Apple App Store, and sign up for the WOW Club. Start earning WOW rewards today. We're back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Whether you're visiting,
haven't missed one since he was 5. I only went to one, and that was the year they were ranked preseason number 1. That's the only time I've ever gone.
You know, bandwagoner?
No, it's just the only time I happened to be able to go. I can't remember how old I was, but that was 2013. I might have gone a second time, but that was the first one that I can't remember the second one if I did go a second time.
Dun, 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 dun.
And much like Indiana football, whenever I became an Indiana basketball fan, they were horrible. That was the year they won 6 wins. It was the first time I really got into college basketball. There's our friend Mike DeCourcy's here.
Hey, Mike.
What's going on, Jim? Hey, John.
Morning.
I was just raving about the Manning cast last night and the
Nothing new,
streaker.
right?
There was a streaker and he got clocked by one of the Rams. Clocked.
Did you see Saturday Night Live this week?
Yeah, I went back and watched it after watching the Manning cast because they had John Hamm on the Manning cast last night. So
they did.
Like, oh yeah, it was like the very end of the fourth quarter, and I'm like, what? I didn't know Saturday Night Live was back yet. So luckily I recorded. So but I did go. The guy who did Peyton, I'm still trying to figure out who that was. I think I know which character, a cast member it was.
It wasn't a cast member.
Oh.
It was. I knocked my. Hold on, I'll get it.
Well, I was going to say because he was spot on. I'm like going, man, he was pretty good.
It was Miles Teller who starred in Top Gun Maverick.
Oh yeah,
he was the host of Saturday Night Live.
Yes.
He's Goose's son. Or not, Goose's son.
I'm sorry?
Wow.
His character in the new Top Gun is Goose's son.
Yes.
He did a pretty good job.
Oh, I thought he was tremendous. I thought
he did a really good. I mean, he had all the mannerisms. I mean,
he did a great job. And it was funny because when Ham was throwing shade about him.
5 seconds.
Sorry, I lost track of time.
This segment is brought to you by Southern Stone Restaurant. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. Indiana Sports Beat Radio coming to you here on this Tuesday. Brought to you by Southern Stone Restaurant, located at Patterson and Rogers in Bloomington. Tuesday means Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News. Lucky to have him along with us today. How are you, sir?
I am well, Jim. How are you?
Great. We were talking briefly about the Manning cast in the break as well. And what was it? A point you had brought up?
Yeah, I'm not a regular watcher of the Manning cast, but I do watch. To confess now, I am no longer a live watcher of Saturday Night Live most of the time. But there are these magical things they invented called DVRs. So I DVR it on a weekly basis and then watch most of it. Sometimes not all, but the open with Miles Teller and Andrew Dismukes playing Peyton and Eli was tremendous. And I thought that Miles Teller did a fabulous job.
Unbelievable.
It was great.
The mannerisms, his speech, his cadence. I mean, every little detail, it was pretty damn good. I'm like, man, right down to the 5 head that Eli calls him having. I was watching the one last year. He goes, Eli or Peyton had said something. He goes, listen, Peyton, you don't have a 4 head, you got a 5 head. Oh man, but Eli, I never realized Eli was as funny as he is. I just didn't give him the credit. I guess pretty much like his career that he spent in the shadows of Peyton.
Right.
Peyton has just always seemed like the funnier guy until Chad Powers.
It's good. So if you don't know who Chad Powers is, I think you can find it on YouTube. Certainly you can find the discussion of what happened on Twitter. And Eli disguised himself with the knowledge of James Franklin, but I don't think anybody else in the building knew. James Franklin knew that Eli was coming disguised and with the name Chad Powers. He said he was a 28-year-old student at Penn State and tried out as a walk-on. And it's very funny stuff. Very, very, very clever. It was a really nice little piece they put together, and no one knew who he was. No one recognized him because the disguise wasn't impeccable. Like once you see him, you're like, oh yeah, that's. But if you're going in, you would, without knowing, you wouldn't know. And
Eli Manning's the last guy you're expecting to see there.
Yes, exactly. Out of context, I'm like that sometimes. I need a media guide for life, Jim. I see somebody like the last summer was on vacation, and a woman walks into a restaurant where Deb and I are eating, and I'm like, I know that woman. I know her. I knew right away. I'm like, is she's somebody I've seen on television in one of the cities I've lived, maybe a anchor or something like that. I just couldn't place it. And then Thad Mata walks in behind her. I'm like, oh my, I know. It's Thad's wife. I knew her. Yes, absolutely. So, I think you need a media guide for life. I think that's what would really be helpful.
Yeah, it's funny. It's certainly getting that way. But and then we had the streaker on the Manning cast last night, which I don't know if you caught that. But it was great. Peyton's like, hey, can we run that back? He wants to run that back. And he's like, I know. He said, I know the A team can't do that because I thought with the B team, we can play that. And then they end up showing it. The guy gets clocked by Bobby Wagner. He starts running away from a Rams player. And that was a mistake. Because as soon as he did, Wagner was coming the other direction and just dropped him. Great.
What's interesting is of all the sports you're going to field invade,
that's the wrong one.
Do not do an NFL game. Those guys are wired to hit you. You run onto a baseball field, they're not going to hit you with a bat or a ball. They're just going to wait till the cops or the security catches you.
Yep.
But if you run onto a football field, you are asking to be dead.
It makes them mad.
Absolutely.
It really angers them. And buddy, yeah, he got it. It was funny. He got what he deserved. How's everything going with you?
Everything's going very well. I hope you saw the piece that I did last week.
Absolutely. Been talking about it, making sure everybody read that. Great piece. What's the reaction been like on that?
There's been a lot of reaction. It got very much greater traffic than I would have anticipated. I mean, it was very widely read. When Dane and I talked about the article, I did not think it would be a huge read. I did it because I felt like it was a good story to tell. But it turned out to be one of my most read stories of the year. There's some reaction that basically suggests that I should have dealt more in rumor and innuendo, and I wasn't going to do that. I was going to tell what I knew to be factual. And what I could directly report. And so I found the criticism in that department I was a little disappointed in. There were some who there was one writer who directly countered one of the things that Dane said, and that was very important to him that he wanted to be quoted on, was that he was criticized after he was let go. There was criticism that he had been telling everybody he was going to be the next head coach, and Dane insisted that it was exactly the opposite of that. That not only did he not do that, but that when he was approached about the position and that was on the table and offered to be put into his contract, that he declined it. And there was one writer who specifically said that was a lie. And I'm like, well, here's the thing. There are probably three people in the world who know the truth about that. One of them is the Indiana athletic director. One of them is Dane's agent, and the other is Dane. There are only three people who know. And I didn't approach Dane's agent because I didn't think it was necessary, since I got it straight from him. And I asked Indiana University if I said, look, I'm not asking you to get into all of why you let him go. I know you can't, and you probably aren't inclined to if you could. So I just said there are two mechanical questions about the mechanics of his entry and exit that I would like to have addressed if possible. And one of them was that question: was that offer to be put into his contract? And the other one was he offered the chance to resign and chose to basically be dismissed, which is what he did, which is what he said, and the reason he said that he did not accept the offer to resign was that he felt that there are two things he'd never quit on: his family or his school. That's what he said. So, and IU said that they would rather not comment. And that's fine. I didn't have any problem with that at all. I understand that they just didn't want to engage. That's okay. That's fine. I was not complaining about it. I said in the story that they did not comment, and that, the only thing I got from IU was basically a reiteration of Coach Woodson's statement from last March when Dane was let go. So I don't buy that one could say directly that that's a lie, because I don't think that you can know unless you're one of those other two people.
Yeah, and that's something that IU, they didn't say that per se, I believe. And I will say, in my discussions with Michael Lewis, who was also there at the end, I remember talking to him after the fact, because I thought that he was going to end up in that position.
Right.
But he just said, I simply will not leave Los Angeles for anything but a head coaching position.
Right.
So that was the difference between Michael and Michael. It wasn't the head job, so Michael wasn't interested. Whether there was a head coach in waiting there or not,
right?
That was not what he was looking for. So there's that. Won't help clear that up. So, and it's easy for people to go back and say that they didn't say this after the fact, or to make it easy. But I'm sure that, it'd be nicer if they would prefer that it just went away. It's a sticky wicket. It's one of, I don't know where you'd rate this in the IU basketball world of things that have happened. Bob Knight being fired and this and that, but this is a big one.
No, I'll be honest with you, Jim. I don't think it's huge. I think it was an interesting story to tell. It was huge for Dane, obviously.
That's it's Indiana in the pantheon of Indiana.
Yeah, even in that, I mean, there's so many other things that have happened.
Success-wise, absolutely.
But even just like what happened with Kelvin, hiring him and it not working out and choosing to cut ties. What the aftermath of that was, with basically, the problems that they had academically at that point. I should say APR-wise, academically. The number of players who left, Tom Crean basically starting with a vacant roster. There's been so many things that have happened to IU basketball over the last 20 years. I don't think Dane's hiring and dismissal ranked that high, but I thought it was a compelling story to tell about someone whose career was on the ascent, going in the right direction, and he kind of bet it all on his passion for his alma mater, and it didn't work out. And I thought that was a compelling story to tell.
It was definitely nice to see it being done by someone outside of the day-to-day IU media. That's for sure. Because that can always, sometimes you don't know if that is being influenced or not. Obviously there's none whatsoever. And what was there anything that you learned that stood out that really, like, oh wow, that I wouldn't have imagined that, didn't think that?
Yeah, well, I think that to me the most surprising revelation was that he knew things were not going in the right direction basically when we got to March last year, and he was offered, it was presented to him. I don't know, the technicalities of job offers these days, right? Oh, we never offered the job to anybody but Coach Jones, that kind of thing. But it was put on his agent's plate that he could get a very comfortable, prominent mid-major job in an area that he knew well. And I'll leave it at that relative to who that is, where that is. And even though he knew things weren't going well, he was so committed to trying to make it work at IU that he let that offer, basically slide away. And it was, I think that said a lot about how passionate he was about IU, but it also, that maybe that the passion for that position had become, too consuming. And and that he's offered, he's on essentially, and I mean, his plane is going down, and he's offered a parachute, and he said, no, I'm going down with the ship, so to speak. And I think that was, from a career standpoint, that wasn't necessarily the way that most of us would have gone. Now, it may, it all may work out for him in the end, and I suspect it will, because he's bright, he's engaging, he's he's a terrific basketball coach. He's had success recruiting, coaching, etc. It's going to work out for him, and he felt that's what he needed to do. That's not what I would have done, to be honest, Jim. I would have said, this is not working for me. I've got to get myself out of this. That's what I would have done. But he made his decision, and now he's got it. He's got the challenge of finding something else out there that would be as promising as that position would have been.
Do you think Dane thought that there would be more questions if he did it the other way, or just simply he gave the reason of why he made his decision? But also, I'm probably going into that, he's thinking, well, maybe there's going to be more questions that have to deal with that aren't really even there for me, but people just make up. Sometimes people make up questions that aren't there.
No, I think a lot of what he's faced, and it hasn't been much. I mean, there have been very few real media, true media reports about his departure. I mean, everybody said he's out, but very little in the way of why. And so I don't think if he'd taken that job that many would have said, gee, why would he do that? I mean, it was kind of been the thing that, that a lot of people would have done in that position. If you're an assistant coach, you become a head coach. And that's one of the things that was interesting about, one of the things that motivated me to do the article, Jim, was simply the question of why you're sitting next to Tom Izzo. Everybody who sits next to Tom Izzo gets a head job. I mean, it's been true of Mark Montgomery, DJ Stevens, the most recent, Brian Gregory, Tom Crean, Mike Garland. I mean, they all got, Doug Wojcik as well. They all got head coaching jobs after they, and when I say sit next to Tom Izzo, I'm not trying to diminish the fact that all those people, all those men did tremendous work. I'm just saying that, using that as a colloquialism, they sat next to Tom Izzo, they got good jobs. And so why would someone who was in that position leave that for another assistant coaching job? To me, that was the number one question that I wanted to answer in doing that article, because it was such an unusual decision to make. And I think Dane made it quite clear in the article about, that it was driven by his passion for Indiana. That's, he had a very strong attachment to Indiana University and to Bloomington. And that was absolutely why he did it. There was, as I said in the article, and as he was quoted directly, there was the implication that if he went there and did well, and that, if Mike retired in the window that he suggested, which was basically 5 years or so, that Dane could possibly be his successor. And that was part of it. But I don't think that was even the biggest part of it. I think the biggest part of it was wanting to be a part of putting Indiana back on that top of that mountaintop. He and his teammates had gotten IU to the championship game. Before, he played in the NCAA championship games. The last basketball game he played for IU, played well. Just he had shut down. He shut down Juan Dixon for most of the game, and most of it wasn't good enough, but it was pretty special to do what he did. And so he wanted to get IU back to that mountaintop, and he wanted to be an active part of that. He felt that strongly about it.
And he has not wavered from that any time that I've talked to him or seen him speak with someone like you. And now he's still coaching. He's helping out on the AAU circuit. And ironically, with kids that some of which probably end up at IU in that Indiana elite system. Trent Sisley, Jalen Harrelson, those guys are in that system being heavily recruited by IU. I mention that only because of the irony is all.
Yeah, I mean, he when he did that this past summer, he coached he did not coach. He was an assistant with the 16 under team that won the Peach Invitational. They went to Kansas City. I attended one of their practices prior to Kansas City to sort of observe what sort of players he was dealing with and how he was dealing with them. I pointed out in the article that to find the place where, it almost took a little spelunking to find him in that circumstance, because 16 under isn't the primary Indy Heat team. So you had to go through like 3 gyms at Brownsburg High to get to the one where his team was practicing. But he helped out Phil Washington with that team, and they went to Kansas City, and they didn't play great. So they didn't qualify for Peach Jam. But then they went to the Peach Invitational, and they did. They played great. I mean, they got whacked in their first game by 30 or so points, and then came back at the end to beat the same team, BABC of Boston, in the championship game and take home the trophy. So he was a part of that, not the biggest part, but he got a chance to be in that environment. And it's one of the things that I didn't think about much, but when I went out to Brownsburg, I didn't really think much at that point about how hard it would be to go back to that circuit when you just got let go by your alma mater. And in a way, what Phil Washington told me was that although Dane might have said it was hard to be in that environment, Phil said that there wasn't a coach practically in the entire arena that didn't come up and say hello to him and ask him how he was doing. You're not allowed to really talk much because he was with the team, but just the chit chat. Hey, Dane, you doing okay? That sort of thing. And he said it was like every coach came in there, and Phil thought that seeing that sort of respect paid to their assistant coach helped the players understand that the guy that was talking to them maybe had some juice, maybe had something behind what he was saying.
Absolutely. And even though none of them, were they even alive? No.
No, it was legit 20 years ago. So
yeah,
no,
I was like, I'm like trying to quickly do the math. They weren't even alive to see that, which is a lot the case a lot of times. But yeah, it's just to see him involved in that, at least. That seems like a healthy way to work through whatever it is. And the way he wants to work through it, because I can only imagine the disappointment. The reason is irrelevant at that point. The disappointment is still going to be the same because of whatever you were looking forward to and had hoped, and then that doesn't materialize and actually it disappears. I can understand the great disappointment that he has to be or had to deal with on that, and it sucks.
I think it's fair to say that it would be closer to heartbreak, Jim. I mean, based on his affection for Indiana, I think that it probably would be better to be described as that. I don't think I used that verbiage in the article, but I did use the word romance. That a lot of what took him back to Indiana from Izzo's bench was romance. That it wasn't a strictly business decision. A business decision would have been, no, I'm sitting next to this guy until I get a head coaching job or the head coaching job that I want. Because another thing that I wrote was, and I'm a Pittsburgh guy, right? And I covered Duquesne, my first college basketball beat in 1986 or 87. 87 was my first college basketball beat. And I covered Duquesne, and he was offered a lot of money, $800,000 a year. I don't remember the exact term now. I think it was 6 years, but I couldn't swear that. So he turned down a lot of money in 2017 to become Duquesne's coach, in part because he still was active trying to get the IU job then, and also in part because I think he understood that Duquesne job's a really hard job, man. I consider it to be nearly impossible. And you can see that now with Keith Dambrot. Keith is a tremendous basketball coach. Got them better. Players started leaving because they could. It's just a tough spot to be in the league they're in, the Atlantic 10. But he would have made a lot of money to live in the best city in the world. No offense. But he chose not to do it. And so he's waiting for something else. And so maybe it was a different job that would have gotten him off there, but he believed that he could help Indiana get back. And that's not going to end up being his mission. He's going to have to find a new one next spring.
So is that the plan, to just wait till this upcoming NCAA season, basically tournament time? That's the NCAA convention going on, Final Four. Teams have – basketball is a little different. Football, boy, they don't have that, so they fire coaches willy-nilly. I mean, we've already seen coaches getting fired this year. But basketball, they try to be a little more logistical about it.
I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure that's going to stand. Yeah. I think I used to be a strong believer, and I wrote a column when UNLV fired their coach, probably around 2016, when they fired their coach Dave Rice. I wrote a column that was pretty scathing because I thought that, look, you don't fire a coach in the middle of the year. This is who these guys signed up for. If the coach did something awful, okay, you got to get him. But Dave is one of the wonderful people in the world, and that wasn't what it was. It was strictly basketball. And I didn't believe in that at that time. But I have changed my thinking on that because college athletics has changed. Yep. With players now having so many of them having no loyalty to their present school, I think it's okay for the schools to say, well, we might lose these guys anyway, so let's get in somebody. Like at Wisconsin, they promote Jim Leonard. Okay, maybe that works. Maybe he turns out to be a really good coach and they want to keep him. And all these guys say, hey, that's my guy. I want to play for him. And nobody leaves rather than stick with Paul Christ, who they weren't succeeding with and felt like they were probably going to do this eventually. So why not do it now? So I think you're going to see that more and more in basketball as well, especially with how you can turn a team in the middle of the year, maybe. And even if you only turn them for the last week at certain levels, you can make the tournament. If you can get a group of people that you think are talented to play together for a week, in the Ohio Valley Conference or the Missouri Valley Conference or the Big South or whatever, you can make the show. So I think we're going to see this more in college hoops as well. Over in the next few years, as long as the rules are as they are, and I think these are the rules for as long as I can see into the future.
I agree, because teams are now turning so fast with the players able to leave at will that you want to keep that talent if you've got that talent, if there's any chance of doing so. So I agree with you. But John, I pointed out yesterday, ironically, that Paul Christ at his firing had about or the exact same record as Bo Pelini at Nebraska. So Wisconsin, be wary of what you ask for. Just ironic. But looking forward to that. We got to take a break. The great Mike DeCourcy is with us from the Sporting News. Make sure you go there and read the article on Dane Fife and the many other fine articles that he has. But we got lots more coming up. We'll be back with it. Brought to you by our good friends from GoTeen, a part of the Wow Club. For those on the go, it will certainly provide you the boost of a protein snack that tastes great and is easy to get. Back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Golfers, here's well, I got that out of the way before we talked about Indiana, Michigan.
Oh, no.
Oh, boy.
Oh, man.
Why is Big Noon Kickoff coming to Indiana this weekend? What is the point of that?
Schedule. They go to everywhere. I think they try to go to all of them, and just how it works out.
This is a beautiful time of the year to be in Indiana. Don't forget that.
That's true.
Except for Saturday, Mike, it's like the weather here has been absolutely custom ordered for the last 10 days, probably. Friday and Saturday, the highs have been like 73. High is, I think, 55 for those days. It's going to get down to the 30s Friday night, I believe. I'm not ready for that.
The good news is the game is during the day, so you're going to get the 50-degree weather from 12 to 30.
Well, I'll be in that press box. Not sure if I need a jacket or shorts, but I'll have both. You can never tell. What are you working on next? Not that you have, and you may not have the follow-up yet, but just wanted to ask that before.
Follow up on what?
Your next piece.
Oh, I've got a piece coming next week about baseball. I'm not sure. I think I'd rather wait to reveal the content until next Tuesday.
Well, but we can talk about baseball because our old buddy Kevin chimed in a little bit ago.
There he is.
How about those Jets? The Mets, of course, folded. They didn't fold, man. Folded like a cheap suit. Golly, they got swept. That's embarrassing.
Wow. That's
they
bad.
still make it to the playoffs. So, but yeah, what are we in the? Do we have? Is the season completely over yet, or we have a game left or something?
I think there's games tonight and tomorrow.
Do you know the Yankees are not going to reach 100 games?
What do you mean 100 games?
And regular season wins.
Oh, they're not going to reach 100 wins.
Yeah, 100 in the regular season. They're not going to reach 100 regular season wins. The Astros have 104. The Braves have 100.
Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indy Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by our good friends from Remax Realty in the Indianapolis area. If you're looking for a home, you need Cheryl Sizemore and her 2 decades of experience. It could be the difference between you getting the home you want or not. Reach out to her, Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com. The great Mike DeCourcy is with us from the Sporting News. We just finished talking about his great piece on Dane Fife. Make sure you go read that at the Sporting News. And man, now we've got baseball. Our old buddy Kevin Brockway chimed in. His Mets, they gave up the ghost. It got swept. The Braves are going to be the pennant winners in the NL East. The NL Central, buddy, are Reds and the Pirates. They're battling for superiority of awfulness. They're not the worst by far not the worst in Major League Baseball, but they're 60 wins each, 60 and 99. Who is going to be the worst team in this division? One game left.
When the Red Sox played the Pirates about 3 weeks ago-ish, Dennis Eckersley was in the radio booth, I think, maybe TV booth, whatever, broadcast booth for the Red Sox. And he looked at the Pirates and he called them a hodgepodge of nothingness. That was his phrase for the Pirates. And
oh my God,
my brother, who is a big baseball fan and who is a heartbroken Pirates fan, just has laughed about that for 3 weeks. He said they should just basically put it on the side of the ballpark and leave it there. And here's something that I discovered in a Twitter debate about salary caps a week ago. I've said many times that that baseball will always be broken until it gets a salary cap system. And there are people who foolishly believe that salary caps are meant to restrict salaries. They are not. They are basically to promote competition and make it not, oh, you're the Dodgers and you make 10 times or 5 times or whatever more local TV revenue than everybody else. So good luck trying to compete with you. They balance things out. But what the lack of a salary cap system does in baseball is it allows teams like the Pirates to say they are rebuilding, right, with young people, and to get away with it. This is my favorite stat. I looked over this last week on Spotrac, or however they say it, Spotrac. I don't know how they say it, but it's a great website for salaries in sports. And I looked at the minimum salary for a National Hockey League player is $750,000. They have a salary cap system in the NHL. The minimum salary is $750,000. The Major League minimum salary is lower than that. Now, that right there tells you something's wrong, right? But I counted 22 Pirates on the current active roster, 22. And you can check this at that site if you like. I counted 22 Pirates making less than the NHL minimum. So baseball's taken in, I think, 5 times the revenue of the NHL, something like that, might even be more. And they're paying almost an entire team of players less than the teams are playing hockey players. Come on, man. That shows you this system is broken. And the baseball players are completely beholden to the agents and the star players. Yeah, okay, Harper makes $450 million or whatever, but the entire Pittsburgh Pirates lineup makes nothing comparatively. Now, it's way more than I make, but for a professional athlete, for a professional baseball player to be making, any professional baseball player making less than the lowest paid hockey player is preposterous. It is such a diversion from what should actually be in place given the relative revenues of the two sports that it's laughable.
That means that they're making less than the strength and conditioning coach for Indiana football.
It's true too. That is. It is. It's crazy.
It just dawned on me. Not that Indiana has anything to do with that. That analogy
it's
just
a great
jumped out
point.
at me. I'm like, wow. And the worst thing is 60. Where the Central Division? Oh, I've left it. The worst thing is 60 and 99, 60 and 99, 55 and 104. I mean, every league has the better and the worst teams, but Major League Baseball, it seems their floor is just drops. It's like they have a group of nothingness, like you said. Yeah. It's just a group of nothingness, and you can't have that in. That's why in the NFL, even the worst teams can upset the better teams because it is truly a professional sport. Just higher level of talent, I think. Baseball's too saturated out.
It's about the fact that you can't go cheap. You might as well have good players because you're going to have to pay them. A cap comes with a floor, and it's not always it's not like this close. I mean, but there's not that much room. I mean, I think the NHL, I think it's close to $20 million, $20 million difference between the floor and the cap. And NFL, I think it might even be closer. But you basically have to spend like everybody else. So you might as well have good players. Baseball, you can say, we're rebuilding. We're rebuilding with young kids, and maybe we'll get good.
Cincinnati.
But the Pirates have had, I believe, since 1992 when they won the division for the third consecutive year. So starting in 1993, I believe it's a total of 3 winning seasons. That's 30 years, Jim. And they've had 3 winning seasons. It's ridiculous. But that's the business of baseball. And the owners have gotten to the point now where with a little bit of revenue sharing, they make so much money that they don't even care anymore. People say, well, they should just spend more. Well, it's like this. Okay, Jim, if you're making $1 million a year and I'm making 50 grand, and we both drive through a neighborhood together and see a house, and we both like the house, okay, you're going to be able to spend more than me for that house, no matter how hard I want it, no matter how desperately I want to live in that house. Even if you don't want it and you're just going to rent it out, you can outspend me, and I have no chance. And that's the Pirates and the Dodgers with every player in the league. The Pirates can spend more money if they want, but they're basically going to get the same crummy players. That's because that's the way the system, the economic system, is structured. It's an impossible thing the way it's constructed, and we just get through a lockout, a collective bargaining process, and nothing changes. It stays basically the same. So baseball is always going to be stratified in the way that it is. Now, if you're like Washington and you win a World Series a few years ago and you make a few bad decisions or whatever, and you decide to cut loose some of the people that helped you win it, whatever, or you get some bad injuries, you can go from the top to the bottom pretty quickly. It's a little harder to get back to the top. But if you're the Dodgers, I mean, the Dodgers can just keep buying and buying and buying and buying, and they're never going to have a bad team. It's almost impossible for them to have a bad team. They're not always going to win 110 games, but it's nearly impossible for them to put a bad team on the field.
Playoffs start this Friday, waiting for a few games to finish out to set the schedule. Cardinals set to play Friday, and the wild card, not sure which wild card team they'll be playing. Then you'll have the other wild card teams playing that same day as well. And then we'll move on to Saturday, same situation. So it's here, man. Baseball playoffs. I'm looking more towards college football. I'm just loving the season. But what do you think? We've seen the Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, and Michigan. Imagine that at the top of the AP poll right now, which that obviously won't stay that way because Ohio State and Michigan will have to play, and then one of those teams will have to play again, and they could be playing Illinois for the Big Ten championship.
Yeah, it's possible.
I mean, how about Illinois? I mean, they are. I think it's more surprising on how the Big Ten West is just down that much. I thought Minnesota was the team, and then Purdue goes there and beats them, and it's like, wow. I mean, they're very. I guess you'd say there's a lot of parity in that division right now, but I'm not sure there's any greatness.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. I mean, Northwestern has struggled, Nebraska, Wisconsin. All three teams are probably the teams that have been the most consistent in the time that we've had the West. Nebraska had an early run, and then Wisconsin, Northwestern popped up here and there. Iowa has been very consistent, although last year was, I think, the first time they broke through and made the championship game. They've always been consistently right there. Struggling a little bit on offense, but they're starting to find their feet a little bit. It'll be interesting to see how things develop for the Hawkeyes over the next 7-8 weeks. I think that's a team that can find its way to the top of the West and look reasonably attractive doing it. You're right. Brett Bielema is doing a great job at Illinois, building that back up. And obviously had a huge win over the weekend. So it's going to be interesting. I do think it's sort of the way that imbalance with Penn State playing really well and Michigan playing great and Ohio State being Ohio State. I think it does sort of raise the question again of whether the Big Ten ultimately, as they expand to include Southern Cal and UCLA, will want to revisit the divisional concept. Maybe they think that adding those two and you getting a real powerhouse, a true historic powerhouse into that West Division, maybe that restores the equilibrium a little bit.
Someone Nebraska,
and you can maybe see them coming back or whatever, but Southern Cal is already on its way back. And when they enter, you'd have that historic powerhouse that, like I said, maybe a little bit more equilibrium there, and then you can go forward. And we'll see what they do. But that's something that, is going to be interesting to watch, because a lot of the various leagues are choosing to go away from divisions, especially in light of the fact that we're probably going to have an expanded playoff in the near term rather than the long term.
Yeah, Indiana, big loss last week at Nebraska, because it was one of the few remaining games where I look at the schedule and I'm like, okay, well, they got a shot in this game. I think they got a real shot in this game. There's not a lot of those left on the schedule.
Right.
Very, very few of those left on the schedule. It doesn't mean they can't do something and upset somebody, but to just look at the schedule, that was not only was it a situation where you can get another win, that would have been 4-1. If you're 4-1, boy, you got momentum. Even if you come back and lose to Michigan, which everyone expects. I mean, you're playing a very elite team, but 4-1, it just gives you a little more confidence. You're only 2 games from bowl eligibility. You're like, all right, but man, you lose that game, it takes a lot of wind out of your sails. Tom Allen he was definitely a little more deflated at this week's presser.
Yeah, that was a tough one to lose, but it was on the road. You still have the opportunity to play Maryland at home. Maryland's played well, but they're not out of Indiana's reach. You get Rutgers at home. I took my wife to Columbus over the weekend, so I saw Rutgers in person, and they're feisty, but they're not very good. And you also have Michigan State, and then the bucket game. So there's still some games out there. You've got the really difficult games this weekend against Michigan, the November 12th against Ohio State, and then that Penn State game is one that you'd circle right now, because Penn State nearly lost to Northwestern over the weekend. I think the final was 17-7. So they turned over the ball a bunch of times, and of course, Indiana has beaten Penn State in the recent past, so it's not one of those games where they say, "Oh, well, that could never happen." So I think there's some games out there they could win if they can continue to improve offensively. I think that's the part of the game's got to get better. They really moved the ball against the Bearcats 2 weeks ago, but couldn't convert anything into points. So you've got to find a way to turn your ability to move the football into your ability to score.
Mike, what are you going to do this weekend? Just watch some games? Chill
out?
Well,
first on Friday, the United States women's national team in soccer visits England for what will probably be the biggest exhibition, friendly, whatever you want to call it. It'll be the biggest in the history of women's soccer. It's going to be played at Wembley Stadium.
Wow.
Close to 90,000 fans. They sold out the tickets in less than 24 hours. The champions of Europe, current champions of Europe, which England is, and then the current champions of the North American region, CONCACAF, which the U.S. is, as well as the reigning World Cup champions. So a huge game in that sense, and I'm going to be writing about that a couple of times this week, as well as covering that game on Friday. So looking forward to that, and then a great college football weekend as well, and then the Steelers have to go to Buffalo with the quarterback. Oh, man.
Friday is Hoosier hysteria here, so that will be keeping us very, very busy. And then, of course, Indiana hosting Michigan for homecoming weekend this weekend, a big weekend in Bloomington, very busy as well. Mike, I cannot thank you enough, man. It is always a blast.
Indiana's hosting Michigan for homecoming.
Yeah, everybody keeps asking. I'm
when I was at Ohio State over the weekend, because my wife is a Buckeyes fan, so I took her up there for the weekend. It was homecoming, and they're playing Rutgers. That's how you do homecoming. You get Rutgers. That's how you do it.
Same thing. It was the same thing when I was in high school. We weren't playing the toughest teams for homecoming. I can tell you that. Yes. That was a guaranteed win.
This is my favorite time of the year in this part of the country, so I get that. But
I think it must have had something to do
Wolverines.
more to do with must have had more to do with Hoosier hysteria, I think, lining up because
Still a basketball school first, right?
Easy there, John Calipari. Mike DeCourcy, the great from the Sporting News. Make sure you give him a follow and go to the Sporting News. It is free content to read. Brother, I appreciate you. Have a great week.
Thanks, Jim. You too.
Thank you so much, Mike DeCourcy. Brought to you by Barbara Pop Real Estate Services down in Southern Indiana. If you're in the Louisville, Southern Indiana, Floyd, Clark, Harrison County areas, you need Barbara Pop Real Estate Services. They've served that area for 3 decades. Barbara at barbarapop.com or Matt Lincoln, Matt at barbarapop.com. We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Andy Moore Honda is, I was talking about when I was in high school, Leslie. We made sure we were playing one of those guaranteed wins, baby.
It's the same thing for senior night, too, in high school. Never wanted to lose on senior night.
All right, so what do we got? 9:40?
Yeah, you'll just have this will be a short 6-minute-ish segment.
What's it
and
go
you'll
to?
have Chronic coming on.
Oh.
You'll go to 9:50 here.
Oh, this is a 9:50. All right, so 9:50.
No, this is the 9:30 technically.
Right.
Just long,
Chronic will be
fine.
at 9:50.
Correct. That is correct.
You are correct, sir.
Excuse me. Yeah, but that's just the thing. They're going to make homecoming. I think you're dead on. I think it's going to be an annual thing, homecoming and Hoosier hysteria, which makes sense, but also doesn't. Because if both programs are doing well, then it's like, oh, great, we get 2-1. But then whenever football's not doing well, like they are this year, you take every bit of attention away from what's supposed to be a weekend about your football team, and no one cares, which is exactly what's going to happen this weekend. And you bring in a team that's going to put more fans in your stadium more than likely than your own fan base, or at least close to the same amount. It's the beauty of Indiana football. What a glorious program. All right, 20 seconds.
The home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from Remax Advanced Realty at Cheryl@IndyHomePros.com or 317-298-0961. Cheryl Sizemore from Remax Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl@IndyHomePros.com.
This segment is brought to you by Feast Market and Cellar. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by Feast Market and Cellar, located right next door to Southern Stone on Patterson and Rogers, offering an extensive wine selection, along with a sommelier and staff to help you pair that with the gourmet offerings they offer, or whatever else you may be having for dinner. Welcome back. Jim Coyle with you as always. Dustin Schutte on assignment as he prepares to maybe join us for this big weekend up. Go to thehoosier.com and you can find Alec Lasley's latest article on national top 30 prospect Liam McNeely, breaking down his official visit to Indiana for subscribers. And if you're not a subscriber, you should be. It's only $8 a month for complete coverage of recruiting and IU news. Liam McNeely, now at Montverde Academy, was here at Indiana this past weekend. His first official visit. He's a 4-star prospect, number 25 in the Rivals 150 2024 rankings. And he's the number 7 overall small forward in the class. He visited with Derek Queen, his Montverde teammate, and former teammate of Jalen Hood-Schifino and Malik Renaud. So somewhat of a reunion this past weekend for those guys, the 3 of them at least. But it's going to be very interesting to see how this recruiting plays out because, like I said previously, when he was staying in Texas, I don't think Indiana had a shot. I think that has all changed now. I think they have as good a shot as anyone. Texas is still going to be a big player in that. But Indiana certainly has stepped up. And I think seeing how Jalen Hood-Schifino and Malik Renaud do this season, how Indiana does this season, is going to bear fruit for the Hoosiers in the recruiting, of course. I think that will have as big a bearing as anything. Now, Liam doesn't have the connection to Maryland that Derek Queen does, which Indiana's already lost 2 recruits to Maryland. But again, those guys were from that area, as is Derek Queen, though. So, but that doesn't always matter. Some people want to get away. And it'll be very interesting. It's going to be shocking to imagine Indiana getting both of those guys. I mean, I'm not sure that they get either of them, but I'm just saying getting both I would seem unlikely. But you never know. Texas, LSU, Oklahoma, and Oklahoma State are the other programs standing out to McNeely at the moment. He has no other official visits scheduled, FYI. But yeah, you should go to thehoosier.com and check out Alex' complete piece on that. And again, if you're not a subscriber, you should be. It's only $8 a month and get all the coverage that you can stand. Again, I asked who else going to who's going to Hoosier Hysteria, who's going to the football game, who's going to both. I'm curious, how many people are making it a weekend? Don't forget, we're at BB's on Friday, especially if you're coming up, if you're going to be here for the weekend, or if you're coming up early for Hoosier Hysteria, we're going to be at BB's. So come out and join us live. Give you a free breakfast. How's that? Breakfast on me. And let me tell you, Chef JD kicks it, baby. I'm at the, it's chili cook-off. That's right. The chili cook-off. I'm waiting to hear what Dustin's final itinerary is, but he's going to get his butt kicked. I can just tell. I've got this thing in the bag. Even Chef John, if you're listening, even that's you can't get in this. It's not fair for him to get in it. But I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, come by. We'll taste out some chili tasting, but come join us on the show. What are you looking forward to at Hoosier Hysteria, like I've asked? What are you hoping to see? I'm sure there's some women's basketball fans. Taterology says if he didn't live 3 hours away, he'd make his all meat chili. Ooh, that sounds good. Travis is going to both, heading over Friday mid-morning. So he'll be there to enjoy the day. I mean, that's a big weekend. Harvest Homecoming down in New Albany this weekend. Damn it, I'll miss that. Too bad.
Break.
Thank you so very much. We've got to take a quick break. Up next, our old friend Chronic Hoosier joins us. You're listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by Metalworks Brewing Company, located right off the square in Bloomington in the former Function Brewery. Metalworks is a combination of a passion of great beer, metal art, and a desire to be a part of the community, which they are. We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the golf club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Hey, this is John.
It looks like Chronic is trying to connect, but he isn't connected.
Yes, John.
Like it says, well, it shows his little square, but it says device is not connected. I say that
yes,
because
John,
the audience members can't see them.
You absolutely can put yours in. Only reason I said yours don't count is because you'd kick all of our asses. We should, you know what? That's not fair. We should let him put it in, right? What do you think? I'm going to ask the people. Put it to the people.
I don't think you should, unless you're. I don't think you should keep anybody unless you're Chef Gordon Ramsay or something.
Kick it? You mean keep them out?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. It's not fair. It's not fair. Eliminating the competition. You're back in, John. Oh. Renata says no. Renata says no, baby. Well, Renata, are you going to be there to try them? Are you going to be coming by to try them?
I wonder if old Chronic will be joining us today, or if he's having
Indiana's
issues.
extended. Indiana's also extended. That was last month. Malik, tell us. Where he's having issues.
It's true. You never really know how Chronic's going to join. Sometimes it's from his workplace. Sometimes it's on his phone. Oh, looks like he found a way in. Chronic.
What's going on?
There we go.
He's
all right,
back.
40 seconds.
And wasted time. Dun, 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 dun,
I just figured out I was in my work browser, which apparently does not enable audio video.
There you go. All right, here we go.
Gold anniversary membership for only $299. That's right, just $299 covers your green fees for the next 2 years at Eagle Point. It includes tee times starting as early as up to 10 a.m. with 1 week in advance tee time bookings. You just cover your card fees. Now, there is a limited number of memberships available, so go to eaglepoint.com right now and get yours today.
This segment is brought to you by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Now back to the golf club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio coming to you here on this Tuesday. Chronic Hoosier joins us, as always. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well, Happy to be back. Thanks for having me.
Always a pleasure, as rough weekend for Indiana on the football field, of course. But you've got Hoosier Stereo to look forward to on one side, Michigan on the other, as in football. So I don't know if that's a 50-50 proposition of good and bad.
You know, it's the homecoming hysteria weekend here in Bloomington, which you know, in theory, I really love the pairing of the two events. Get a lot of folks back in town. Do it during a time of the year when the weather's still gorgeous, at least as far as homecoming hysteria is always going to be somewhere around this part of the calendar now. Unfortunate that there's not a little more enthusiasm around the football program following a tough loss, a really tough loss against Nebraska. And what that does to perhaps dim the hopes for some postseason eligibility for the football Hoosiers. And unfortunately, this lines up with that typical time of the year where a lot of the attention does drift towards basketball, partly due to the schedule, partly just due to the program's struggles. You know, to remain competitive as the degree of difficulty increases, but the consequences increase. That was a tough loss against the worst defense in the Big Ten. Still a defense that is worse on average than Indiana's defense is this year. But that's the one thing I can't get out of my mouth right now. As bad as the offense was in the second half, just how poor the defense has been able to compete this season and give the offense a chance. Obviously, you can't put a goose egg up in the second half and expect to win a tie game at halftime. But unfortunately, the defense is giving this offense some holes that have proven insurmountable to dig out of.
Yeah, and that's been maybe the biggest shocker is because that's where you thought Indiana could be the most solid, especially with Tom Allen taking the reins back over with the veteran group in that secondary and the talent in that secondary. It's more than a little surprising that they have been hit so badly on the defensive side.
Yeah, no doubt. And, you know, you mentioned the secondary. That's proven to be one of Indiana's biggest liabilities this season. It's just really one of those head scratchers, trying to figure out how they could regress to this point at this moment in Tom Allen's tenure in this moment in so many of those leaders' careers here. That you would see just such a big drop off in production from the defensive backs here at Indiana.
Yeah, and now we've got to bring a team comes in that is, I don't know, it could be the best in the Big Ten. It's definitely one of the two best in the Big Ten, but between Ohio State and Michigan. But Michigan has just been solid all year. They have just been train wrecking people with the running game and just running over them. And I don't know how Indiana is going to stop that. That has been a bugaboo for them. You know, I don't know which has been worse, the run defense or the pass defense.
Well, it's funny because defensively, Indiana has the worst passing defense in the Big Ten, allowing an average of 277.8 yards per game. Rushing, Indiana's just moderately better. They're the 12th worst. Well, I guess they're ranked 12th in defense in the Big Ten right now, allowing 142 yards per game in rushing. I can imagine any quarterback room, any running back room that's looking at tape as they prepare to face Indiana is probably licking their chops right now at what an easier path to scoring Indiana's providing this season than what most of us would have expected from this group. And I'm not sure that there's any one answer. I think, you know, when I'm looking back at this game, I was going to rewatch it on Sunday. I was able to steal some sneaks during the day. My brother got married this Saturday earlier in the afternoon.
Congratulations!
Yes, great day for the family. Always happy to add more to the family and a great family we've added. Nevertheless, though, I was able to watch the game kind of sparingly on Saturday night, partly just due to frustration, particularly in the second half. But I just couldn't bring myself to it on Sunday. And for a multitude of reasons, but I think what stuck with me was the fact that, you know, what is this, year 7 for Tom Allen now? Recognizing
6, I think.
Year 6, excuse me. As a head coach, 7 with the program.
Yes.
This team looks very disorganized. They look
Could not agree with you more.
They just look like a team that really doesn't know who they're playing with, that doesn't really know who they're calling plays for. And I guess that's to be expected when you put this many new faces up in the box, calling the plays, on the sideline, executing the plays, and all the way down the line. It looks like a program that's had a ton of turnover here recently, and that's exactly who Indiana is right now. And unfortunately, it continues to show very glaringly on tape. And I'm not sure that there's an easy fix that can be implemented at this point. And I'm not saying all hope is lost. I think we've seen some, moderate improvement, at least in spurts from, groups that I've been real heavy on, like the offensive line. But at the end of the day, the totality of it is this is a team that is showing a lack of talent and a glaring lack of depth of talent when it comes to their ability to field a competitive football team in the Big Ten. Because let's be honest here, if you can't get anything going in a second half in a tie ball game against a team like Nebraska, it really doesn't inspire a lot of confidence looking forward over the remainder of the schedule here for Indiana.
No, and especially the defense with Tom taking over and it really regressing again. I hate to say it, but that's a bad look.
Yeah, it is. And, he in his press conference, he mentioned the turnover disparity and their inability to generate those like they previously have. And I think that's certainly part of it. But this has long been a defense that has been known to give up some yardage, but kind of stiffen up once it got down into the red zone. Unfortunately, you've got to stop them before they get into the end zone in order to give you a chance to stiffen up. And, this team has just allowed chunk play after chunk play after chunk play. Where it's really, really made it difficult to compete because they're giving up so much yardage so frequently. And then, just the increasing pressure that puts on an offense that, let's be honest, the second quarter was some of the best football that the offense has played this season, I felt like at times over at least the bulk of the quarter. But, they still have not been able to play more than one half of one football game this season at a competitive level. And I think that's extraordinarily discouraging because let's be honest. I mean, it's a 60-minute game. You got to play 4 quarters. You've got to be able to compete over the course of the entire game. And for a team that has, really saved their best for the second half, kudos to the staff for getting them out of the gate a little bit stronger, particularly for how they were able to close the first half at Lincoln. But just a complete goose egg in the second half is wholly unacceptable. And, recognizing DJ Matthews, Cam Camper weren't available for Indiana, those are the breaks. Every team's dealing with injuries. It's unfortunate that Indiana continues to find its top playmakers out. But at the end of the day, you have to find a way to at least compete. You have to find a way to advance the ball to score some points in the second half. And Indiana was just wholly incapable of doing that and looked like a completely different team. But that's now par for the course for Indiana. We're used to seeing these wild swings from, wholly ineffective to march down the field in 7 plays, get a critical score, right back to being completely ineffective again. And at the end of the day, that's just not going to cut it. And, my big fear going into this Michigan game, this team's not going to let up at any point. That is not in Jim Harbaugh's nature. Make no mistake, he will absolutely put 70 on the board if he feels like his team has the chance against Indiana. And these guys are going to have to find a way to bow their backs, to grit their teeth, and to keep that from happening because this is one of those games that has potential to get real ugly. And it's amazing how those types of games historically have really turned the tides of apathy in the stands. And it's just the last thing you want to see at this point in the season with so much football left to play. But they're going to have to find a way to compete if they want to inspire more of that confidence and keep it going for the remainder of the season.
This Friday, Hoosier Hysteria. That's always a big time. Back on the 30th. This is a team that I think was it CBS had them ranked like 13th or 14th, which that's doesn't mean jack, but they're ranked by most people's. I think that everyone's going to have them in a top 25. The women's team also ranked, the first time that this has ever happened. So this is a very, very unique Hoosier Hysteria with 2 teams that are going to come into the season ranked.
Yeah, it's a remarkable time and a complete 180 from what we're talking about in terms of the football program. talk about not just having talent, but depth of talent. My biggest question going into the basketball season, how are they going to spread these minutes around? I mean, realistically, when you look down the roster uh, at what Mike Woodson's going to be able to roll out this year, um, the depth that this roster seems to have at this point in the season is fascinating to me. Not the least of which is how's he going to manage those minutes? How's he going to keep his key guys happy? How's he going to continue to find room to develop a lot of this young talent he has? And how are the older guys going to hold their positions and hold their spots and hold their minutes against some of these newcomers coming in? So it's extraordinary time, certainly in Assembly Hall. Not the least of which with the women's basketball team, what looks to be another reload for Terry Morin, heading into this year with a ton of expectations, but a program that's been built now to kind of demand those expectations and embrace them. So can't wait to get that started. Wish we had a little more momentum on the other side of the parking lot, but it is what it is, man. It's October in Bloomington. It's not like we haven't been through this before.
Woody's second season, second Hoosier Hysteria last year. Isaiah Thomas made a great appearance. I wonder what special things could the fans expect this year? I wonder.
I'll tell you what, I am tickled pink to see IU alum, ESPN sports personality Courtney Cronin back in Bloomington. I had the privilege of watching her as a wee little pup here in the sports media program. Just one of those Swiss Army knives of a journalist. She is absolutely amazing, but she can truly, truly do it all. I remember watching that girl shoot her own shots, editing on the sidelines, whether it be, field hockey or I can't, I've just seen her all over the place. So to see her come back and get a chance to co-MC Hoosier Hysteria with another IU alum, Rhett Lewis, of NFL Network fame, it's going to be pretty cool. Pretty cool to see her take the stage, take the mic at center court, and get the season kicked off. And you got to forgive me. I know we got a big musical act coming in. I'm one of those guys showing my age.
G Herbo, baby. Yeah. Don't forget about G Herbo.
Had to Google it. My kids told me.
Right there with me, brother.
They queued up a bunch of TikTok songs. I'm like, oh yeah, I totally know who this guy is. Obviously not by name, not by sight, but I recognize some of the tunes. So I'm excited that there's excitement back in the gym.
Well, I'm going to tell you, a friend of mine yesterday was saying, yeah, man, all the kids are fired up about that musical act. He didn't know who it was. I said, G Herbo? He said, yeah, man. He said, I don't know who the dude is. He said, but the kids are all jacked. I'm like, well, that's what it's about, man. It's about creating electricity for the students, electricity for the prospective players. They want to come into an environment that is electric, that is fun, and wins. Indiana has got all of that, minus the current winning, and that seems to be about to change. And if that does, Indiana's recruiting is just going to continue to head up like a rocket, I think.
No, and I think this is the natural progression that most schools have made. They continue to find ways to keep their events fresh, to keep their students engaged and excited throughout it. And that's what you do. That's what the players want. It's what the students want, and at the end of the day, it's what makes college fun. It's honestly what makes me and my wife still live in Bloomington, is that energy that this town brings. And I know for some of the older set there at Assembly Hall, Lord knows Indiana Hoosiers love to cling to our traditions as much as anybody in the nation. And rightfully so. Don't get me wrong. I think there's something to be said for a lot of the traditions that we've established over the years in Assembly. But I am all for fun. I'm all for keeping the students energized and engaged. And not only are you bringing in G Herbo, we now have a sideline DJ under contract for the remainder of the football and the basketball season, if I'm not mistaken, which is something that Indiana did not too terribly long ago with good friend DJ Unique.
Yeah.
Yeah, and well, it's not Matt coming back behind the turntables. Indiana is once again bringing back a DJ for its game day event. So I think a DJ Gino, if I'm not mispronouncing that. Nevertheless, though, I think it's a good thing for everybody. And those that want to complain, take a trip down to Cameron Indoor sometime. Tell me that that's not louder than most live music clubs you've ever been into in your life. I promise you, all the older folks survive it at decibels that I've never heard in a gym before. And, it just adds to an incredible home environment. So whatever it takes to keep everybody on their feet and at the top of their lungs, that's at the end of the day what makes Assembly Hall so special and so intimidating. So throw all the fuel on that fire you can, no matter who it takes off.
I agree. I mean, I think Indiana has to find a balance between a little less band music and a little more up to date. The balance with the DJ, which apparently, since they have a DJ, I don't know how that's going to work. But yeah, that would be nice. During basketball games, there's a heavy band play.
And that's the balancing act. This debate just raged on over the weekend about what are bands and what's their role in college athletics. And I think at the end of the day, live music, live bands, brass bands, drums are a
sound.
Yeah, no, it's an integral part of the college experience. It's what does differentiate it from some of the pro sports leagues. But at the end of the day, I think there's a medium, a happy medium that can be achieved there between some of those traditional arrangements versus some live DJ input throughout the game, especially in pregame, halftime, and at other critical junctures. But I think Indiana is rightfully heading down that path, trying to figure out a way into the future and how they balance that.
Yeah, and I'm not cracking on the band, but I think a lot of bands they learned progressive songs, and I don't know that we hear that. We hear this pretty much the same. They have the set list that they play. I think.
I'll tell you what, man. I went down this path a year or two ago, and I had several members of the 100 and the Big Red.
Oh, I knew that would be coming as soon as I said that.
Who all chimed in, and they listed off all the new additions to the playlist, and I had to take a step back and be like, you're exactly right. They have been making a concerted effort to keep that a little fresher, to update it a little bit more while still maintaining some of the standards. So kudos to them for that. It's certainly part of the Assembly Hall experience and the Memorial Stadium experience I wouldn't want to do without, but I wouldn't mind if we mix it up a little bit more at the same time too.
One other quick thing: the is it the Penn State game? The whiteout coming.
Yeah.
What game is that? Oh, that's for North Carolina. The IU North Carolina basketball game on November 30th. A whiteout. I've not seen much positive reaction from that.
I'll tell you
a lot of it's because why isn't the red out?
Yes. No, Indiana has long tried these active fan engagement events, and I've always been a little down on the whiteout. One, it's not our it's cream and crimson.
It's everybody's primary color.
Exactly. It's so overplayed, and at the end of the day, the execution. It'll be strong in the student section. You look in the remainder of the stadium, though, and it's so intermittent that it doesn't even look like the memo got out to everybody because white is just so stark. The contrast is so extraordinarily stark. Whereas, were you to do a red out, even by default, that's going to be the natural color of the gym. Now, they've done stripe outs in the past and other things to moderate success as far as the participation, but I'm all for trying to do events. I know my kids absolutely love them. I've just seen too many times swings and misses on the whole wide out thing. I think it's too overplayed, and I think it's too easy to make it look bad.
Yeah, they talked about the stripe out before, and it wasn't very successful. They couldn't pull it off, even though that the shirts were provided.
Yes, and white's one of Carolina's colors. I mean, come on, distinguish yourselves a little bit more.
It's just it doesn't make sense. But trying, it's great. But I'm not seeing a single. This is on the Hoosier.com. I'm not seeing a single positive supporting of it. I mean, I am rolling through it. I'm like, wow. Yeah. So sorry about that. Whoever thought of that. Wrong color.
It's just something that everybody does, and nobody does it better than Penn State. So
yeah, you don't need to do it.
You just don't. I know it's there. I know it looks like it's low hanging fruit, but I'm telling you that fruit's rotten. It is. It's always been, and every couple of years we try to roll it back out. I'm, whatever. I will stand by it. I'm all for letting the kids have fun, but let's set ourselves up for success and just skip the things we know aren't going to be executed.
Then if you're in the media, you're really going to stand out because you're not going to be wearing white. And so, like, who
But
are
the
these
nice
guys?
thing about that though is they've got most of y'all so far up in the nosebleeds that you're kind of hidden by the balcony anyhow, so you don't really have a chance
It's
to ruin
gotten better.
the effect.
It's gotten better. There's been some realignments. It's gotten a little bit better. I think the Young Bucks are still up there, or the whatever. But
Oh, you old dogs in the Bob Hamill Memorial section.
Yes, it's gotten much better, baby. Yeah, I don't have to climb those stairs anymore. That is a glorious thing to know.
And yet again, one of those things that remains in flux, though, trying to figure out what the right balance is as far as how to maximize the seating in Assembly Hall, because I certainly I don't know that the move to the media up in the nosebleeds was necessarily in the program's best interest. I get why they did it, but at the end of the day, too, it's kind of like where you position the student section. I think there's probably a way to fine tune that and get a better outcome for everybody involved.
I agree with you wholeheartedly, brother. I cannot thank you enough. Hope you have a wonderful homecoming weekend and enjoy the family and just enjoy this cool weather coming up.
I'll tell you what, I'm looking forward to some warm weather. We're actually, while everybody's lining up to get into Hoosier hysteria, I'm going to be pointing the family truckster Dark Stars going southbound here. We're heading down to the Redneck Riviera Friday night, and we'll be there throughout the following weekend. So I am looking forward to watching the news of both the football and the basketball goings on from afar. And I promise you, I will be representing Indiana well on the sunny shores of South Florida.
We look forward to it, brother, and I hope everyone is doing well down there.
I will send them your best.
If you ever get a chance, go to Anna Marie Island, stop by the Ugly Grouper.
There you go.
That's you, brother. Appreciate you, Chronic Hoosier, joining us here as always. Brought to you by Andy Moore Honda, AndyMoore.com, where you can always get the best deals on new and used vehicles. We've got more coming up from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Back with that right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Whether you're visiting.
All right.
Well, that went well for two guests.
Oh yeah, of course. That's why yesterday I was like, I think it'll go fine without Dustin today specifically.
Yeah, but I had something I wanted to bust out and I couldn't bust it out.
Can you do it tomorrow?
I can. Tomorrow's Wednesday. Friday may be best. I think I'm going to bust it out. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Friday. That is going to be good. I mean, you can see it, but I'll show it to you after the show.
Okay. Got about a minute. When we come back to about 11 minutes until we wrap up.
All right. Thank you.
Marshmallow Valley. The Truth made it on with 13 minutes to spare.
The Truth. You can't handle the truth.
All right, here we go. 20 seconds.
Indiana basketball, football, and plenty more. Simply go to thehoosier.com and sign up. It's free. You can also find full episodes of Indiana Sports Beat Radio on the homepage or on this station every week, Monday through Friday. If we're not on a station where you live, we should be. Ask for Indiana Sports Beat Radio. This segment is brought to you by Courtroom Sports Grill in Bedford. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, high atop the 18th fairway. Brought to you by Courtroom Sports Grill down in Bedford. Wonderful place to catch a game, hang out with friends. Was there over the weekend. Just the food, revamped menu, incredible. You need to, if you're in that area, stop by. Definitely. It has been a great day so far. Mike DeCourcy and Chronic Hoosier joining us as Dustin is on assignment as we get closer and closer to a big weekend in Bloomington with homecoming in Indiana taking on Michigan on Saturday. But before that, Friday, Hoosier Hysteria kicks off at 7. The people will be lining up, standing in line, starting, I don't know when. Indiana invited them to do that. I'll have to pull that up. They actually invited the students to go out and start getting in line. I forget what time they suggested that they do that. But it was, I'm thinking, let's see. There you go. Don't miss your chance to be a part of the noon. Students are invited to begin lining up at the southeast corner of the Simon Scott Assembly Hall. Now that was, I remember last year arriving, and that line was very long. That's for the students. I think they may have a different line for non-students, which will also be long. Early arrivers will be positioned to have access to the best seats in the special general admission student section of Simon Scott Assembly Hall and sections L through M for both Hoosier Hysteria as well as the post-event concert by G Herbo, yo. In addition, they can expect to see members of the IU men's and women's basketball team and staff as they arrive for Hoosier Hysteria, presented by Smithville. So everyone's going to come by there as well. So the students getting some extra special treatment, which is good. It's a school event. Once the event gets underway at 7 o'clock, attendees will get the first public look at the pair of teams that both have lofty expectations for, of course. So there you go. That was for the students specifically. Not sure where the regular people lineup is, but I'm going to imagine that is just going to be into the front and rear entrance doors. I doubt that they will start getting in line at noon, but hey, who knows? It's a great opportunity for people to see game in an Indiana game, or see a game in the Simon Scott Assembly Hall for those who don't get that chance. And you see a lot of those people come here, and it's a great opportunity. Great opportunity for pictures, great opportunities to, a lot of times it's the first time a family comes up, that a kid comes up. So looking forward to it. Gonna have to wear your jacket. That's for dang sure. Boy, tailgating Saturday morning is going to be a bit nippy. Gonna I wonder if we'll see some fires going out in the fields. Definitely would like to be around a fire. It's going to be, in the 30s? Early Saturday morning, I think. I looked at that. That's just too cold, man. That is just too cold. So Friday night, a low of 37, which means whenever that happens, on Saturday, whoo, mama, football weather for sure. So, let's see. That's Mike's talking about that. Marshmallow Valley. Who is that? Missed that one. Don't forget, Friday, back at BB's, Chef John was on a little bit ago. We're going to allow him in the contest. I've changed my mind. Oh, yeah. John said, Chef John jumped on because I said, you can't eliminate people. And let's see, where was? But there you go. Chef John says, how many people ever dreamed about a shot with Ali? You get a shot at Chef John, Chef JD. I'm looking forward to that about as much as I would be looking at getting into the ring with Ali, getting mopped. But it should be fun. Yeah, no noodles allowed, but that won't be a problem because Dustin is in agreement. I, of course, am in agreement, and I already know you don't call him Chef John because he puts noodles in chili. That I promise. Mine will have mushrooms, though, however. So, what are you looking forward to this weekend? Most of those that are coming here, obviously, I know you want to see the basketball team, but again, what is it that you're looking forward to seeing? It's not, they're going to do some contests, I know, and who's going to the concert? Who's going to see G Herbo? Yo? John?
Is G Herbo, I'm kind of misunderstanding. Is G Herbo during Hoosier Hysteria or is it a separate event?
It's after.
Okay, so it's not during. Okay.
It's at the conclusion of.
So how did that work in compared to when like Snoop Dogg went to Kansas? Was that the same?
Don't know. I was not there. I don't know that did he perform at Kansas or did he just like MC or what? I don't know what he did.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't remember. But this is going to be an actual performance, I believe, because like I just from the release regarding the students, they have a special general admissions section of Simon Scott Assembly Hall, which is L through M, and that's for both Hoosier Hysteria and the post-event concert by G Herbo. So they're probably going to set whatever stage up there is in that area to feature those. So if you want a shot at listening to G Herbo, you're going to loop over to those sections.
I may have to give a little taste of it to Rick Bozich tomorrow. Last week he wanted some. We didn't have it.
Dude, what do you mean you might? Well, I can't believe you waited this long.
We have to act like it's a possibility. We can't say, we will have G Herbo.
But this should have been every day. We should have been doing this. We could have done this with people
every day. I'm not risking that many copyright infringements.
Different 15
We'll see how
clip
tomorrow
every day.
goes. And then if tomorrow goes well, maybe we can G Herbo it all the way to Friday.
I've got to be honest with you. I'm going to have to pull it up myself.
As somebody who doesn't listen to rap music, I don't have a clue who he is either. I listen to rock and roll. So,
the only rap I would know is old school. Eminem.
It's the same for me. Anything before the year 2010, probably.
NWA, those guys, yeah. But looking forward to learning new things. Always like to learn new things. I do. I'm serious. Hey, you never know. Don't forget
what would be your ideal Hoosier Hysteria performer if it were for you only?
Oh man, you're going to give me more time than no time because we're out of time. Thank goodness.
Well, we got 2 minutes.
We do?
Not like somebody who like obviously G Herbo is not like a Snoop Dogg. Who's somebody from your era that you like that's maybe not like, on the level of a Snoop Dogg that could do a Hoosier Hysteria?
Man, that is a good question. And I would need a little more time, but
I'll give you mine. Dirty Honey is a rock band they're young. They're like a young Aerosmith. That's who I would put in for Hoosier Hysteria. Look up Dirty Honey if you're into Aerosmith.
Yeah, I've never heard of them. But Jim Harbaugh suggests you suggest Nickelback.
Nickelback.
Bob Seger by Mike. Jim also said he's in town Saturday to rain on homecoming. Bet your money on him. And Jim and John.
1 minute.
I like that. Jim Harbaugh. I like that, my friend. Yeah, I mean, AC/DC, man. I'd go old school, man.
There you go.
Yeah, I'd go old school. AC/DC, Guns N' Roses, even though they're from Lafayette, half of those guys.
See, but those are like too big, though. I'm talking about somebody, and we don't have time to go into this anymore.
But David Lee Roth, who was born in Bloomington.
There you go. 30.
So there's that. Hey, we're back tomorrow with another outstanding lineup, and I cannot wait. Always an absolutely blast to have Bob Kravitz from The Athletic on. Kyle Nedrep, the Indy Star, will be joining us as well, and Rick Bozich from WDRB.com. Just an outstanding middle of the lineup there, baby. Cannot thank Mike DeCourcy enough. Make sure you check out his piece on Dane Fife at the Sporting News and all of his other great articles that he has as well. Chronic Hoosier, big thanks to you as well. John, the producer. Most importantly, thanks to you guys. Without you, we have no reason to be here. But until tomorrow, when we'll be back to do it again, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat.